let's move on and talk about the reactions of acids. Right. Now, when we have an acid and a metal hydroxide, the result is always going to be a salt and water. Now, something I want you to note here is that for all four of these reactions here, we always get a salt. And so it is often useful for us to think of a salt as being the result, the product of an acid-base reaction. And you'll see how that's going to be useful when we talk about the hydrolysis of salt. So usually if we have something that's ionically bonded, we would call it a salt. But in the context of acids and bases, it's very useful to say, well, a salt, it's going to be that product of an acid-base reaction. Okay. So let's say, for example, we've got hydrochloric acid and that reacts with sodium hydroxide. Okay? The salt that's going to be formed is always going to be the cation from the base and the anion from the acid. So this is going to give us sodium chloride, and then this hydroxide joins with this hydrogen ion in order to give us the water. Okay? If we have an acid and a metal oxide, let's say, for example, we've got sulfuric acid and that reacts with copper oxide, right? Now the salt is going to be the cation joining with the sulfate ion. So you're going to get copper sulfate, okay? And then here, this oxygen is going to be happy to find two hydrogens that it can bond with, because that's what it needs in order to form water. And then if you've got an acid and a metal carbonate, so let's say, for example, we've got nitric acid, and for our metal carbonate, we have something like sodium carbonate, right? So sodium carbonate should actually have two sodiums, right? So what's the salt that's going to be formed here? Well, again, the cation and the anion is going to give us sodium nitrate, right? And then we'll just notice here that we actually had two sodiums in our metal carbonate. So I'm going to have to put a 2 here, right, in order to balance this out. But then I've got two nitrate ions. So then I'm going to have to put a 2 here. Okay. So then what do I get? Water. Okay. So that's going to be one of these oxygens from the carbonate plus the 2 hydrogens. So that's going to be H2O. And then once that oxygen left to go form water, well, there's now 2 oxygens left, and so we get carbon dioxide, as promised. And then an acid and a metal might be something like, I'm going to use hydrochloric acid again, because I don't have great imagination. And then for the metal, let's say we use magnesium ribbon, all right? And then the salt that's going to be formed here is going to be magnesium chloride, right? So usually magnesium will form 2+, so this will probably be MgCl2, right? Which means that we'll probably have 2 of these reacting, and then the hydrogen gas is going to be H2. Right, so these are our reactions for acids, and unfortunately it seems like it's a bit of a schlep to learn, but it'll take you all of 10 minutes. What I recommend you do is cover the product side with your hand and then look at the reactants and say acid and metal hydroxide, what's that supposed to do? And then do that a few times and then check when you've done and check what you've done, right? And you'll see that that actually will help you in order to memorize this. It's a pretty good technique, and if you do that a few days in a row, there's a good chance that you'll get it in there. Okay.